All right, guys, so welcome to our first in a series of an amazing roundtable discussion. So what I wanted to do first is just briefly introduce what we're going to be doing. So one of the main stemming issues around Imperfectly Perfect campaign and the overarching aim is to change the face of mental health by dismantling the stigmas associated with it. These stigmas tear at the very fabric of society where the very elemental courtesies for human decency are forgotten and eroded. By changing the culture and challenging the perceptions of mental health awareness, Imperfectly Perfect captures the essence of humanity by helping the world to see there is a serious issue that has no barrier of fame, fortune, social status, creed, beliefs, ethnicity, or age. Today, we're very honored to be launching the first in our roundtable series by bringing incredible guest speakers from all around the world, all different backgrounds, beliefs, ages, social status to come together for a facilitated open conversation on topics around mental health and well-being. One of the most important questions we like our listeners to ask themselves throughout everything in aims to get these conversations started is, stop for a moment. If this was someone you loved, your brother, sister, wife, husband, or friend, how would you champion them in their constant battle? So first and foremost, our first roundtable, I'm so excited. These guys have all been an integral part of Imperfectly Perfect, for which I'm truly thankful for, using their voices, sharing their stories in aims to get these hard conversations started. We have 5 amazing guests today for you, and I'm going to go around and ask each person to give a quick introduction to themselves, share a little bit about who they are and what they have struggled with in the past, and really show our listeners how much, as we all think we know people, and how scary it is often that we think we're alone and we can't do this. We are not. So, first and foremost, guys, welcome to our first roundtable. I'm so thankful for you all being here. I'm going to go around everybody from the top. So, Mr. Justin Guarini.
Oh, hey, how you doing? Thank you very much for having me. It's such an honor to be here with all of these wonderful folks who I have seen and spoken to, some directly through this wonderful campaign that Glenn's put together. So thanks for having me. My name is Justin Guarini. If you live in America, you will have seen me on the very first season of American Idol, way back 2002. I got to perform for 30 minutes. Thanks, applause from the peanut gallery. I was very honored to be able to not only perform in front of 30 million people week in and week out, but make it all the way to the finale where I duked it out with the one, the only Kelly Clarkson, and came in as runner-up on that show. On the entertainment side, I've been in 6 Broadway shows. I pop up on TV every single day playing a character called Lil Sweet, aka Lil Sweet, who is the face of Diet Dr. Pepper. And so that's what I do on the entertainment side of things. But with the pandemic, with a lot of the things that I have been working on over the years, and a lot of people who've come to me for mentoring and coaching, I found that there was one commonality to all the challenges that not only entertainers, but influencers and authors and coaches were facing when they came and they just talked to me. And that was the challenge of confidence, right? Having confidence. And that was something that I realized, oh my goodness, all the times when I felt like a failure, all the times when I never lived up to my expectations, whether they were realistic or mostly not realistic, it was because of confidence. And so I'm writing a book called Unshakable Confidence right now with all the things that I've learned and all the skill sets that I've learned on how to build confidence. So I would love to talk about that later on here, but that is who I am, and I cannot wait for you to meet the other people on this wonderful panel.
And thank you very much, Justin. And next, and this lady is incredible. I mean, she actually was introduced to Justin on a show that actually brought us all together. So I'm very thankful for that. Vidal Sassoon.
Yay. Thank you for having me, Glenn. You are truly wonderful in all that you do and just connecting us and paying this forward. And Justin, I can't say enough about you and just how you pull on my heartstrings. You're just such a good man. And I appreciate that. And everyone else I'm getting to know. So thank you for having me. I'm Vidal Sassoon. I say the rest of what I'm about to say in to explain sort of who I am today, but it's not something I walk around and want to say, oh, I'm the daughter of Vidal Sassoon, who was, a man who changed the world with a pair of scissors, but yet he was so much more. I've made choices in my life that led me to being 8.5 years sober. My sister overdosed in 2002 from drugs and alcohol, left behind 3 kids and two ex-husbands and a lot of other, you know, insanity, which I do think that she was not diagnosed properly. Well, I know. There's so, you know, I tend to get caught up in, I don't like being attached to certain things, but that I have done, but it's led me to where I'm at. So I chose to do a season on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills that really kind of threw me over an edge, but I got to learn a lot about things that I haven't healed yet, which was so powerful. And the rest we can unfold. And I am here today because I know mental health so well, because I struggle, because I am on an antidepressant, because I am sober, because I do have to take Ativan before bed. I don't know that I have to. I think that it's become a regular that I've tried a few times to break that I don't want to say habit, but let's just call it a habit for now, because I'm trying to get out of that, because there's so many things involved. But at what point did someone, you know, say, let's sit down and get to the bottom of this, Eden? And me not having to hold on so tight to these ideas or things that we've been taught in our past, to have to turn around and say, wait, what does all this mean? Who am I really? Because these are just ideas and things that I've lived through, but not who I am today. So I mean, I know the struggle's real, and I've lost many friends. And I'm just glad to be here with you guys to spread this message and talk truthfully about what's really going on, because I am definitely a voice of, you know, let's not tread lightly. I want to go in if we're going to go in. So I'm Eden. I'm ready.
And she has one of the best tattoos ever, which due to the campaign. Perfectly imperfect.
Real.
And next up, we got Rachael Newsham.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, everybody. So Glenn and I met donkeys years ago. As you can tell by the accents, his more than mine these days, because mine's a bits of this and bits of that. We're both from across the pond in the UK and now live in the Southern Hemisphere, and we met through the fitness industry. So I've been in the fitness industry for 20 years, and it's all about health and fitness. That's what it's called, health and fitness industry. And that is smoke and mirrors these days for a whole lot of the darker side of things. And it's not being discussed. And I would like to be the change that I want to see amongst my peers and amongst industry greats to try and redirect course. I think we've lost our way a little bit, and that's okay. Every industry has to, but we've become a little bit obsessed with our image rather than our health. And because of that, I can see a decline in mental health amongst people trying to keep up with this imagery that is one body shape, one body type, one face, one hair color, one style, and it's all driven by algorithms. Like, we're a product of our own success, if you will. And so that's where I am now. But where I came from and what got me drawn to the campaign was my own mental health, where I was at odds with the world for various reasons. Life throws at you, but the main reason at the time was I couldn't find a way to be in sync with the universe. I was like, this is not feeling like a place I want to be. I don't know why people aren't showing love and kindness. This is just selfishness and greed, and I just can't get in the groove here, and no one's real anymore. So I came off social media to a degree, but what I did is I saw the campaign and I was like, this is it. This is exactly where I feel real, because this is real. And no one's afraid to talk about it here. And as much as it gives me sweaty palms to go on and start to talk about the fact that maybe I'm not okay, I don't think there's a problem with that. And I know intuitively there's not, in fact, intuitively I have to do that. So the problem is the problem, and I can be part of the solution. So yeah, there's me.
Amazing. She's an incredible lady, guys. And Christian. So, Christian Alozie, introduce yourself, mate.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night for me. Literally. My name is Christian Alozie. I am a former dancer actor from the UK. I've been a performer, or I have been a performer going on 20 years now. I've been around in the industry, so to speak. Worked with some insane artists throughout my time, which has been blessed and so like, you know, grateful for. Also went on a TV show called Britain's Got Talent a few years back with my team. We were finalists on that show. This was in the same year as Susan Boyle. Which kind of skyrocketed our career as a team. So it kind of opened my eyes to a different side of our industry, the darker side of the industry, so to speak. It's not to say that I wasn't aware of it, but I think a lot of it was highlighted even more so, to a point that it developed a sense of this sense of perfectionism. Like, I was consumed by it. I was never content with anything. Like, even the past achievements, I always thought, no, that's not enough. It's not enough. Like, I was constantly chasing perfectionism, constantly chasing what was an illusion. And it did affect me personally, because I felt like if anybody couldn't match up to my way of thinking, relationships were kind of affected and somewhat tarnished, simply because I just didn't like to settle with mediocre mindset. Like, even if we or anybody that I interacted with didn't like have the mindset of, right, you got to pursue the best, we got to be the best, almost like that, like athlete chasing the next gold medal. You know, they've just won ones, like, right, what's next, or the next Grand Slam, or whatever it was. That it consumed my way of thinking to a point I never got to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I never got to enjoy the smaller wins and the successes. As a result, it led me to the path where I'm at now, which is I now represent talent. I'm a talent manager, talent agent. So I wanted to bring my experience to the next generation of performers and help them get into the industry the right way and kind of steer them away from the pitfalls that we were consumed by and succumbed to. Because I feel that the industry is it's a wonderful industry, but it's so dangerous because it's got the ability to completely build you and break you in an instant. And it's something that I've seen, especially in young performers coming out of, young graduates coming out of their stage schools or colleges or whatever it is that where they trained, to a point they have this sense of not being good enough. And I feel the education system has a huge part to play in it, especially in the younger performers' mentality and their mindset and the mental health. Is constantly taking a decline. A lot of them are turning out to be great performers, but terrible people. And I hate to say that, but in actuality, it's the truth. It's the ugly truth. And this is one of the things that I wanted to combat and really, really take it on head on. And I think I said to a couple of people that I've been working with, like, if it means me having to make enemies of people within my industry, I'm willing to fall on the sword for it. Because at the end of the day, I know what it's taken for me to get to this stage. I didn't have anybody when I was coming up into the industry that was, you know, trying to steer us in the right direction. So I feel like it's my duty as somebody that's been there, done that, that's gone through the hardships and worn the t-shirt, to be able to, like, now help the young generation achieve their goals without necessarily going through the hardships that we went through as an older generation. So I feel I'll be doing anybody a massive disservice if I didn't do this, what I set out to do and achieve it. So this is part of my story, and yeah, thank you for having me on board, Glenn.
You are more than welcome, mate. And last but not least, Letitia Frye. Bit of context with Letitia. So I was in LA and I literally was scrolling social media one day and a post came up on serendipitously, or whatever you want to call it. And it was so raw about a story that I reached out, and within a day we was talking, she flew from Arizona to LA to get behind the campaign. Amazing lady. So Letitia. So.
Thanks, Glenn. And thank you to everyone for sharing this. It's great. So first of all, what I do, yes, I chant all that, and I'm an auctioneer, but I'm known as America's auctiontainer. So it's something that Alice Cooper gave me. So with a theater background from USC and acting and all the rest of it, used to be on the news and whatnot, I fell into kind of serendipitously into becoming an auctioneer. I mean, literally 1,000, you have a 15, now 2, now 25, you have a 3, like that. Like that's what I sound like. So, wow. But because I don't look like your typical guy, big bellied cowboy auctioneer, all the celebrities started hiring me. So all the rock and rollers hired me, all that. So I usually do about 113 charity events a year, from the Super Bowl to everywhere, and constantly moving through that. But on a personal note, while that career was kind of taking off in that direction, it's been 17 years of that now. And there were no women in my industry. There's none of this existed, and really just kind of paved that way, and then mentored countless women behind me to get into it, so that now auction schools are about 50% men to women. They used to be lucky if you found one woman in there. So in that being said, on my own personal journey through that, back in 2014 on Thanksgiving Day, I was struck by a car while I was out running. And I was thrown 15 feet in the air and landed on my head and split my head open, suffered a brain injury. So as that traumatic brain injury started to take into my life, that's really when I got my first true lens at, like, everything I thought was real is not, everything I thought was constant, everything that was up was down. I mean, I had vertigo, I had seizures on stage. It was a big undertaking. And then about 8 months after that, my children's father, who was my best friend, but we kept that because he could never get off cocaine. He just couldn't. We met in college, we were married, and I had to leave because we had kids, because he just could not get sober. And he shot himself 8 months after my accident. And so he killed himself and left me without a dime, basically struggling back through my own career and trying to raise these 2 kids. And shortly thereafter that, about a year and a half later, I finally fell in love, blending families. And then what should have been my stepson, who was transgender, took his life. And so we had a series of things back to back to back. And for me, eventually, and particularly recently, talking to Glenn about found myself in this mental health struggle. And when you have a brain injury like that, particularly when you're performing on stage, they just slap you on Klonopin. They slap you on whatever. And for me, it took me a long time. I weaned myself off of it. I was too afraid to check in somewhere to get off of it and let anyone know that. So I did it myself. But there were some definite dark corridors that I have traversed. And in my case of my job, I put it in my job that I have to volunteer for every single one of my clients. So if I'm going to go represent a children's hospital for cancer and they have a camp for that, I'm going to go be a camp counselor for children with cancer. If there's a camp for transgender youth, I'm a camp counselor. If it's hospice, I'm a hospice. I'm a wish granter. I'm a big sister. I walk the walk and talk the talk. But what started to happen to me is, as I'm noticing homeless people, as I'm noticing suicide, as I'm noticing, shootings, as I'm noticing alcoholism, all these things that people think are a problem are actually a side effect of the real problem. And so I have to work in the trenches trying to pull people back up and convince other people to relay their story. And I noticed that really what we're missing here, the commonality between all of it, was mental health. That the reason all of these nonprofits are servicing these people that are falling through the cracks is because we're never really addressing it up here. And so for me, after my own personal journey through these things, I started to notice that what I thought was 2 worlds kind of not intermixed. In other words, my work world and my personal world, I actually realized they're very intermixed. And that there's a reason I'm on the forefront and on the front lines with all these people suffering different ailments, because they actually all start back at mental health. It's a conversation we're just not having. And so I set out to really disrupt that conversation, and Glenn happened to come across one of those posts, brutally honest. And that's how we interacted. And ever since I met Glenn, I mean, honestly, if it's the last thing I ever do, I'm going to get this man fully funded. If it's the last thing I ever do, he is going to get fully funded and where he needs to be. But that's kind of what's brought me here. It's serendipitous for sure, and it's definitely not about me. That's something I figured out a long time ago. It is not about me. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you. And Letitia's amazing. So first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for sharing your vulnerability. And this is one of the things about the campaign. It's like none of us really knew each other. We've all come together, and it's almost like that when people are too scared to share their story or go to group therapy, they think they're going to be judged. And when you break it down and you share your vulnerability, there's so much commonality. So I thought for today, the topic at hand, what we could talk about, and I want it popcorn style so that everyone can jump in and have their say, is basically, what do you think when it comes to, are we there yet with mental health being openly spoken about, and how perfectionism has failed us? The pressure to be perfect in our social media feeds, in school, at work, is driving a rise in mental illness, especially among young people. We're all here, we want to create that legacy, the causes of this phenomenon, and how can we create a culture that celebrates the joys of imperfections. So, as I say, this whole campaign stemmed from me turning social media on, wanting to disrupt it because I sadly lost a friend to social media, and a lot of it was pertaining to a highlight reel. Great career, great family, great that. We didn't see anything, so there was no kind of preliminary educational resources that we saw. So, I mean, let's open it up to the floor. And I mean, I want it to be popcorn style, so anyone jump in. But what has perfectionism caused yourself, and how do you think mental health has moved along from where you were and not openly speaking about it to where you think it could be better?
Well, I think that, look, certainly since I'm 42, so since I was a child, it has come a long way, I will say. You look back at episodes of a TV show in America we had here called Mad Men, right, which is about those ad men in the 50s and the 60s, and like at that time it was like you didn't know, nobody, no, they would fire, you'd get fired from your job if you went to a therapist or if you talked about any sort of mental health issues. And so then if we look 40 some odd years later, when I was growing up, it was better, but it still wasn't talked about. Now, the beautiful thing and the sort of strange dichotomy with social media is that we have now this platform where people are more like, here is my ugly, here is my challenge, and yet still we don't see enough of that. And like you said, Glenn, it's that highlight reel. We're all seeing the highlight reel. We all are just programmed to put out the highlight reel because that is almost like the currency, right? That's what everybody wants, and we want more followers, and we want all these things. And I think it just comes down, honestly, to vanity, right? Vanity, especially vanity metrics. Likes, followers, they don't move the needle. It's engagement, right? Beyonce's got like 162 million followers, right? But only 1 to 3 million of them actually like her posts, right? That's like less than 1% engagement. And of course, Beyonce doesn't make her money off social media, but the challenge is really seeing beyond so much, how much vanity has been become a virtue and been instilled in our minds as a virtue, whether we know it or not. Everything we're hit with in commercials. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be a woman, period, much less a woman having to see these impossibly high beauty standards and all those other things put in their face every single second. I mean, oh my goodness, I can't imagine. And so I think one of the biggest challenges is to recognize what actually really matters when it comes to the communication, the social media that we have, and what is just vanity metrics that are designed to either soothe our ego or crush it.
Interesting. Justin, Rachel said something earlier. Rachel, you said you were pulling off social media. I literally have I'm done. I can't. And you know what, Justin, it's something that you said too. I realized, so for me, I got a publishing deal. Of course, you wait forever to get this publishing deal, and then the book comes out in the middle of a pandemic. And I was so excited as a first-time author to get like 40 airports, and then nobody was in the airport. So, but I was being forced to, like, he's like, no, you know, my publisher was like, I need you this many impressions, I need this much engagement. And then I suddenly realized, is it really going to sell my book? Does it really matter? I mean, what's really happening here is I'm exhausted, you know? And I mean, I actually had someone walk up to me and go, you know, I love having a front seat in your life. I feel like I don't even need to pick up the phone and call you. It's awesome. And suddenly I realized, what am I doing? You know, why am I giving everyone access to the VIP section of my life? I'm not even there, you know? And so that's definitely, I think social media, you can't, I mean, anyone that saw Social Dilemma, you can't even have this conversation without it. I don't even know what to say. My children are now teens, getting close, one in college, one close, but my nieces, they're like 7 and 10 and watching beauty things, and they're children. I mean, it's like, and they're held up to these insane standards. And for me, I'm 51, and try aging in an, you know, and I've got to be on a stage, you know? I mean, it's funny. My kids always say, how come every rock and roll guy you work for is 72? I'm like, do the math, 20 years difference. I'm still hot to them. You know? So I'm like, you know, it's, but you're right. But what are we, so this was my last thing. And it's, again, Rachel, you really hit it with me today, because Glenn will tell you that my podcast is out right now, my second one with him. And I actually didn't want him to release it. I was too afraid. I thought, I am so raw and so vulnerable in this and so honest. I thought, Glenn, I don't know. And so then Glenn said, well, I'll let you listen to it again. And I realized, come on, get your ego in check. You got to talk this conversation, because the conversation that I had was how I did hit that dark place where I did want to take my life. And I wouldn't, because, I mean, let's face it, my kid's dad did. I'm not going to do that to my kids. But waking up and feeling that every day doesn't make it any better. Just because I wouldn't do it, feeling that way makes me feel horrible. What's wrong with me? And so I told Glenn, you got to have this conversation. I can't be about my ego or whether my clients see it. Screw it. You know, I can't pretend anymore. I just can't. Maybe it's the pandemic that brought all that out, that it's true. You know, I was a keynote for one thing, and they said, well, you know, you got hit by a car, all this stuff happened to you. A lot of people become motivational speakers or authors after that. I said, well, great. What do you think the pandemic is? Welcome to your first tragedy. So now what? You know, are we all going to be better people because you woke up too? So that's kind of the conversation. When is this going to become normal to say, I'm not okay? I mean, Rachel, I'm right there with you. I'm not, you know, I'm okay today. But if you were to look through this pandemic, I can look back and realize I just came through another, through like that, you know, I made it. I'm over here, but man, that wasn't pretty at all.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Letitia. It's everything that we're all talking about here. I'm vibing at such a high level, and it's the realness, it's the honesty. And what keeps coming through my mind is something that happened to me. I had this epiphany. I was like, I'm not fitting in. I'm not successful. I'm hugely successful. I have been blessed with an incredible career. I'm healthy. I have a good lifestyle. But I just felt like I wasn't being successful because I'd gone through a divorce. I couldn't find a partner that suited me. I didn't have any kids. I'm 41, you know, and my circle was successful. And I'm like, that's success. I was like, I'm failing. And I was like, no, what if everything that's wrong with me is what's actually right with me? What if everything that's wrong with us, what if this wrongness, this I'm not right, is the fact that the universe has shifted off its most best self to the point where we're all feeling off because we're not comfortable in this world that's gone mad. It's become obsessed with itself. And in a narcissistic way, we are all driven by popularity. And it's always been that way. It's not been any other way, you know. To be successful, to survive in the world, you have to be successful. But success has changed. And I think the pandemic, Letitia, what you just said, the pandemic is showing us that success these days is happiness. Yeah. And for me, Glenn, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be the change that I want to see in the world. And that takes bravery because it makes me not popular, you know, in the fitness industry. All the imagery is geared towards 20-year-olds. Well, I'm not 20 anymore, but I can still do my job probably better than I've ever done it. It doesn't affect my performance. My age, my chronological age isn't my biological age. And I reckon if we create change in our own backyard, like we're doing here, we can change the world. And that's That's not a statement that I've made up. I can't claim that. That's something that I heard years ago as a Les Mills instructor. By creating change in your own backyard, you can change the world. And that's truly what it is. It's talking to your friends, it's talking to your colleagues, it's talking to your family members, my niece, nephew. That's how we make the change. And we're not going to do it overnight because it's taken forever to get here. But recognizing what's wrong with us is probably what's right with us. It's the love, it's the kindness, it's the feeling that it doesn't feel safe to be ourselves anymore. We have to be someone else. But the bravest thing to do is to be yourself and to speak about it and know that popularity isn't happiness. And I'd rather be happy and put my head on my pillow and feel good about how I've lived my life than be popular and miserable and lonely.
I think that, Christian, do you want to go?
No, go. I'll go after you.
I think, showing up on, we are in this world of technology and social media and all these platforms, which also brings us six together right now, which is amazing. And how, Letitia, he found you. Yeah. Glenn found you. So I think that we need to, if we are these people that we are talking about and we are saying, look, what is my authentic self? And we can verbalize it. If we don't take action, then we're not being authentic. And so we can't change what's happening, right? Like sometimes I'm like, these cell phones have to go, I can't handle it. It's way too much. I want to check out. I want to go to the island and like Blue Lagoon style, live happily ever after with this so-called Prince Charming that's out there. But okay, that's not happening. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take all of me in my imperfections and I'm going to be truthful and I'm going to say it. I'm going to say, yeah, I'm vain, but I struggle with it. I'm going to say it on my social media. And I don't give a, excuse my language, who says anything about it, because I got more hate being on that silly Bravo show than, go come at me. But you know what? You don't want to hear what I have to say because we're not maybe resonating on that same level. But once we kind of meet there some way or another, maybe when that individual, whoever it may be, finds me there, he or she's going to hear it or whatever it may be. But I can't not be myself. And like Glenn, I didn't feel it today. I said, I don't want to show up here not being Eden. And I said, you know what? We had a conversation and I said, thank you. Thank you for taking me to this place where I can show up not feeling well, where I can show up with my peers right here and just be vulnerably me, where I thought I had to come feeling well. I had to come in my voice. No, my voice is here. And so if I don't use it on social media and I don't, whether it's sobriety, mental illness, pick a topic. I mean, they're all there, or even, me on medication. But if I don't do that, then I'm not being authentically me or responsible. So like, get on social media and be like, listen, I'm showing up in whatever that looks like. And I'm going to say it all. You don't want to be here. You don't want to listen. Go somewhere else, because I guarantee you 5 other people are going to show up because they need to hear what we have to say. They need to see what Glenn's doing. Glenn needs to find Letitia, it's happening. And it takes so much out of it takes a lot, well, I'll speak for myself, out of my health because of my thyroid and this and that. And I physically get into it. I like embody it and I show up and I'm like, okay, calm, relax, fine, but it takes, I'm coming to see that, okay, that's who you are. Use it, find a way to take care of it, because when you're out there and you're in this world making changes, you got to go. You've got to go, because you guys, how much more time? I mean, I'm 47. I think Justin might, 41, 40, we're all older. Okay. So we got this amount left, right? And these kids, I got 2 teens too. What? I'm scared. I'm horrified. I lift my hands. I'm like, you guys are going to, just like I did, I'm here to guide. I'm here to hold. I'm here to be present, but you're going to do what you're going to do. I can only tell you, right? And I'm in LA of all places, So I just think like I can already feel this energy, and there's 6 of us here. There's 6 of us. Glenn, we all talk to people who are in the same boat. And imagine if we keep doing what we're doing, we keep, feeding that energy within us and to each other. And we really these are our people. This is the vibration we're at. Why do we stick to like what's safe or what we think we know, or our backyard people or our families? Forget that. Not, you know what I mean? Let's choose wisely. But this is where we resonate at our highest frequency. and where we could do our best work. And so I think, Glenn, back to you, well done for even just for this right here. And there's more, and there's more, and there's more, and we can do this. We can. Sorry, not sorry, but I love you guys and listening to you. You feed me. The fact, Glenn, that for 10 minutes I was like, I don't feel well. I don't. No. And let's, all of you, your stories have actually filled me on a cellular level to where I am now raised to somewhere else, to wherever that leads. I don't know, but thank you.
Well, I think the other day, me and Eden was actually talking, and Eden touched upon something. And she said, these days I could just go and, sit under a tree and talk to people about life and about things. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I could come and sit with you as well. Because when you get on this kind of vibrational frequency where everyone's just vibing and you feel the energy, you're like, yeah. But Christian, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think just to add, one of the most powerful things is us recognizing the imperfections that we have and surrendering to it. Like when you surrender to your imperfections, acknowledge it, embrace it, things become a lot more easier. There's a lot more clarity within yourself and within your own purpose and where you're going. I think with social media and the way it's designed to really prey on your imperfections, prey on your own insecurities. It's like you guys said, it's the highlight reels that everybody's constantly portraying. But in actuality, everybody's wearing a mask on social media. You remove that mask, what do you see behind it? You see a lot of unhappiness. You see a lot of sadness. I see a lot of like depression. So predominantly everybody's just projecting this life that they want everyone to think that they're living. But when the cameras are off and everything else is whipped back, the makeup is off, the whole glitz and the glamour has been removed, what is left but just actually is empty souls. And it's really, really sad, because when I first saw the documentary, The Social Dilemma, which absolutely blew my mind. The fact that the people that created a lot of these apps would not even let their children go on these platforms says a whole lot, which completely like scared me. And I'm not a father yet, but the day I am, that's one of my biggest worries. You know, how my children are going to be. Now, there's quite a few kids that I teach, and the ones that I represent also, they are so hung up on follows. So hung up on follows. Like, it's really, really crazy until I think, how did we get here? And how are they even exposed to this in such a way that the parents haven't even like intervened to say, look, this does not matter. Like, do not focus on this. It's almost like that it's being fueled and allowed to fester to a point. You're gonna let it get out of control. And then by the time your kids hit like teenage years, which is probably the most savage years of your life when you're in high school. I mean, I went to an all-boys school. So I couldn't imagine being in school right now during this era. Honestly, I think it would be the worst thing ever, especially with social media. It's completely savage the way things are now. I think it's scary trying to bring up a child in this era, especially a teenager. You're having to like constantly reassure them that they are beautiful, like regardless of their scars or flaws or whatever it is. I mean, you guys are parents, so I can only imagine like the amount of work that you're constantly having to do to reassure your kids they are perfect just the way they are. But in this era, it's so hard and it's so scary. But how do you control it? Because you're not around your kids 24/7, are you? But I think it's important for the people in the right places that use their power, use their voices in the right way, that's going to really benefit and really inspire these kids to look within and start thinking differently. And I think we're all constantly chasing significance, which is one of the 6 human needs. And if we as adults are constantly chasing or trying to acquire significance on a weekly, daily basis, how are these kids supposed to, do they have any hope? If us as grown adults with fully formed brains and minds, how are the younger generation going to be able to be any better than what we supposedly are? And we're the ones that should be kind of like setting an example. So in closing, what I would say is us coming to a reality of we are imperfect. We are flawed by all means. We are designed this way. We need to recognize it, surrender to it, acknowledge it, embrace it, and use it as our superpower. And teach the younger generation, look, this is normal. It's okay to be imperfect. What you see over here is just a figment of your imagination. It's an illusion. It does not exist. This is fiction. This is a myth. It's been created to make you think that this is what society standards are. Do not succumb to this. Otherwise, you're going to lose your soul. You're going to lose your mind. When you get to a certain age, it's practically going to be hard to get you out of that PTSD stage. And I think that's one of the most crucial things for people in a position to use their voices in order to constantly keep drumming this away. It's all good and well, like saying it out, or, and this is one of the most impactful things that you're doing now. Shake the tree. I always say, shake the tree. If you have to like really, really rub people up the wrong way in order for them to pay attention and really, really listen, shake the tree. Keep shaking it until somebody at some point says, okay, we got to deal with this now.
Well, I think it comes back to when there's certain programs that are out and it causes a divide because it can be so much in your face and so raw. And people will be like, that's too much to see. And the only reason why a lot of times that backlash comes is because it's reality. And people don't like what's being put in front of them. And they have to face the reality that this is what's happening each and every day to our kids, to us. But I suppose, Justin, with you now working into that realm of confidence and coaching with confidence and stuff, when we're talking about a solution and what we can do as individuals with that platform, what would I say? And I'll put this out to everybody. With that confidence, where did you find that confidence within your background, your upbringing, your professions, what you've done? Because on the outside, as I say, alluding to what you've all done, it's been in the public eye. Unless people have heard your individual podcasts and found out some of you are actually introverted, whereas on the stage, people tend to think extroverted. How would you, through confidence, feel that it's okay to talk about your experiences?
For sure, that's a great question. I just want to just go back just a second. So many of the things that we've all been talking about here, and Christian put such a lovely bow on it, was that sticking out or that upsetting people. And one of my favorite marketers, and I've been studying marketing for, 3 years now in a wild sort of way, but you learn so much about how we communicate with one another and how the tricks of the trade are used against us in order to make us feel, as Christian said, that, oh my God, this is the standard of living. This is how I'm supposed to feel. This is how I'm supposed to look all the way down the line. And one of my favorite marketers, a guy named Peng Joon, says this all the time. He says, there's no profit in neutrality. There's no profit in neutrality. And now when you think of that, I think of it 2 different ways. Profit in terms of like money, right? Like if you're delivering a message, it's like, this is okay. This product's okay. You know, you're never gonna sell any of it, right? But look at all the people who are extremely successful. Either people are with them 100% or people are like, no, thank you. Look at the biggest brands of the Kardashians, right? People are like, we love the Kardashians. Other people are like, we can't stand the Kardashians. I mean, here in America, Howard Stern, right? Or if you want to go to the media, Fox News or CNN or OAN or MSN, like people are like, yes or no, right? And when you want to deliver a message and you want to profit from it, maybe financially, but also PROPHET, right? There is no profit as well. Look at all the prophets that have come into the world, right? And who have delivered beautiful messages. And we don't necessarily need to hold ourselves up to Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha standards, but think about it. They were all extremely polarizing in their times, right? But that is how they were able to really connect and why their messages have lasted for thousands and thousands of years. So there's no profit neutrality, and just a little bow on that to say, be the one who's going to stick out and make people angry, make people upset, make people say yes or make people say no, because one way or another, we're starting a conversation, right? There may be people who are against us, but at least we're talking about it, right? It's so powerful. So then if you want to transition over into confidence, what I know about confidence is this, and I think Christian alluded to it as well. For me, we talk about our superpowers all the time. Like, my superpower, failure. Failure is my superpower. I look forward to failing. It wasn't always that way, and I did plenty of it, right? But I've come to understand that confidence, when we look at the English root word of confidence, it means to confide. And what does confide means? It means to trust, right? That's why we tell our secrets to a confidant, a confidant, right? And so when we don't have confidence, it just means that we don't trust ourselves. And think about all the terrible choices you've made, right? Because you just didn't simply trust in yourself. And another one of my favorite mentors, and this is what I'll say before I button my lips, is one of my favorite mentors said, if we can really truly recognize that other people don't see us through their eyes, they see us through our eyes, we'll recognize that when we don't trust ourselves, we are literally telling everyone that we come into contact with that they can't trust us, right? So when we don't have confidence, that trust in ourselves that comes from failure, that trust in ourselves that comes from just getting in the dirt and the mud and talking and doing and failing and having success over here, but all of those things, right? When we don't have confidence, we literally make bad fitness choices. We make bad food choices. We make bad decisions when it comes to the people we want to be intimate with. And when we're trying to develop intimate relationships with people and we don't have confidence, we're literally telling that other person that they can't trust us, right? Business, all those things. So when it comes to that confidence, for me, it was learning to embrace failure. Learning to embrace all of those things that went wrong, and to, instead of identify with my success or with my failure, recognize that my identity is not attached to any of these likes and followers and what I've done or what I haven't done yet, or all of that, that I'm removed from that. And it's all just a never-ending process of expansion and growth, and just really at the end of the day, learning how to trust myself more and more and more and more every single day. And that's confidence to me. But you cannot have it without massive amounts of failure. I don't care who you talk to. All of us up here, the wonderful successes that we have been born on the backs of huge failures, right? Right? And so anyone you meet in any sort of successful position will have that very same story. And so that is what confidence means to me. And that's why failure is my superpower.
Well said.
You know, so when he was speaking, I heard so much, but what you just left me with is like coming back to being in the present moment. Because really, truly, like, and it's hard for so many to grasp, but when we are just here and now, they're obviously, the past is the past. The past doesn't exist. We're done, but yet we hold on to it and we take it with us and we keep all that with, just clouding us. When the brain is just here to protect us, meanwhile, it's sometimes does not serve us well. But when you're tapped into spirit and you're in your present moment, the magic happens. Like, whoa, and that's it. So how do we stay there all the time? How do we shake people's trees? How do we say, you know, I hate her, I love her, and just consistently, you know, be that. Yes.
Start small. Start small. Start small. Do it daily. Be consistent. It's like a muscle. It's like lifting weights in the fitness industry. We give somebody the littlest weight and give them success, and then add more weight as their body adapts overnight when they rest. And I think what you just said, Eden, is exactly it, because we're here to fail. We're humans, like Justin said. We're here to fail. We're humans. We're not perfect. If we are, the world would be boring. This would be some weird, messed up, idyllic, weird place. So embracing failure should be taught at school. Parents should be able to see that it's okay to not have all the answers. Kids should know that parents aren't born bloody geniuses. They can't read minds. They've failed. But if we do something daily where we show love to ourselves and love to other people, then we consistently will gather momentum and reach this beautiful tipping point that will shift the axis of the universe back to a healthier place. And we probably won't stay there very long, because that's the nature of the world. We'll find some other way to mess it up, but it's in messing it up that we discover more of ourselves. And I feel so much peace from listening to you guys, and from sharing this like-mindedness and the vulnerability. And this is the answer, isn't it? You just said it, Eden. You said you feel better from talking about it. And so let's keep talking about it, and let's keep being about it. And thanks to Glenn and everybody here who has the courage to stand up on the platform that, quite honestly, success and popularity has given us, we can be the change that we need to see.
But I will just say on that note there with you all, and I suppose Letitia in there, that feeling that you had about putting your second episode out yesterday, when that came out, anyone within your circle, like I saw the comments, like they were so supportive. Like a lot of the times it's that fear in ourselves. And like Christian was saying, alluding to earlier, you've got to surrender to a place of really feeling, like Eden says, your authentic self, that true nature. So, I mean, when you guys you're all huge advocates for all the stuff you've done outside of Imperfectly Perfect campaign, but with this especially, when you've come onto it, or whenever you have shared your story or vulnerability, has it taken away any support from people? I think there's a commonality that it's actually brought people towards you because they resonate with you. Like, Letitia, what did you find from that episode?
You know, there's some people that have started to listen to it. You know, one of the things that we talked about in the episode, Glenn, is probably what touches on all of this. So what Glenn and I talked about is that when I hit this really dark place, I'm a serial mentor, just yeah, that's a problem for me. One of my mentees lost his legs and his hands to flesh-eating bacteria. And if anyone really understands the struggle to try to find beauty in life and go through, you know, you have to get off pain pills. I mean, there's so much there. So, and he's such a good support system from his family. But of course, when I hit this really dark place, he was the first person I thought to call. And one of the things I found through mentorship is oftentimes you're mentoring other people. They turn out to be the best teacher in the world for you, you know. But when I called him, I found out later from his mom, because he's only in his early 20s, and I found out later from his mom that when he hung up, he said, wow, Letitia's really in this dark place, but I don't get it. She's perfect. Like, she has everything. And then I thought, so what Glenn and I were talked about in this episode is, look, if he wheels in the room, I have a service dog because I've had PTSD, I have a brain injury, all this other stuff. Have had panic attacks, you know, but if he wheels in a room with no legs and no arms, you know why he has that dog. You don't know when I walk into my Louboutins. I mean, most people see these things and go, how the hell is she even standing up? You know, so, you know, and then I try to tell myself, well, I'm part of the problem, but then again, that's just who I am. You know, I'm more comfortable in those. I have flat feet, I'm a runner, you know, I feel good. But what we kind of started to talk about was what happens when someone does say, I'm not okay, then what? Because I found recently that same young man, we were in a meeting and everyone's like, well, he's if he ever did it, we'd all understand. And I thought, what, we're just going to give him a pass? But if I do it because I look okay, it's not. I said, therein becomes like an inequality in who's allowed to be mentally unwell and who's not, and what that sympathy or empathy has a stop to it, because you can identify, it's like a lot of times when I work with homeless, I'll say, you'll see someone on the side of the road, we'll work for food, whatever. But if I see a family with 2 kids and some wheelie bags, you think they're on vacation. No, they're homeless too. So a lot of it's what we can identify as. And what I've liked about Glenn and this is that you start the conversation, but the conversation has to lead to a movement of results. And so for me, and one thing that's come up with a lot of you on here today was I've had a lot of young kids that come to me that are suicidal or whatnot, which is hard when I lost one of my own in my own house. But I usually check in with them and say, all right, well, what are you doing about it? And so that's kind of what it's been about for myself. I have to look in the mirror every day and go, okay, well, what are you doing about it? And so that's that relationship, Christian, that you were talking about. It's this everyday, it's not like, oh, I got here and now I'm just going to sit back on the mountain. That's not it. It's an ever evolving conversation within myself. It's always seeking to find out more, be more. And as parents, even you said it too, I have to show them that's the best shot I got. I'm going to equip you. You're going to go out there, but that's kind of where I sit with myself as well. I need to have those same conversations. What are you going to do about it, Letitia? So for example, I'm I don't even drink caffeine and I'm up here all the time. So I've really made a commitment 15 minutes a day to meditate, which is like asking a squirrel to sit on its hands, or it's, like, don't move. So for me to do that though, I finally figured out that even the chance of even a second in that 15-minute window when the chatter just stops, I'm like, we're there. That second's worth it. So I got to keep trying, I got to like every year think back. Yeah. Well, back in the, hey, I'm older than all of you. Back in the 80s in LA, yeah, we all did cocaine. What I mean? So it's like, but then you're not that person anymore. And then you don't drink as much. And then you're not on Klonopin. And then you're not eating the fast food. And then you're, I think that it's gotten down to it's me versus me. It's me versus me. Can I be better? Just a little bit every day. And so I think that's the bottom line, is that I don't want to bash anybody, hurt anybody, judge anyone, least of all myself. I'm horrible to myself. That's how I end up in those corners. But at the very least, can I just maybe try to do a little bit better job, just a little bit better job? And that's pretty much where I'm at. And that's pretty much where I'm at for my kids and everyone else is just, and I'll pose this question out to all of you. As my life is peaking back around from this pandemic, I'm not sure I want it back. I'm not sure I want to be on 113 stages and on those planes and never home. I'm finally here. And I realize there's got to be a balance between these two. Am I the only one thinking, okay, this pandemic brought a whole ton of shit my way, but it also brought a lot of gifts. And so now I'm asking myself, can I even go back? Is that even an option? And what does the future look like? And I guess that's the question every day. Every day is the pandemic. That's what life is. Every day is a pandemic. What am I going to do about it?
You know what? I think the pandemic is actually the universe speaking to us. It's a reset. We all needed that reset. We all needed that kick up the arse. We all needed that reality check and say, yo, stop, pay attention. Really, really pay attention, not just to yourself, but everything that's going on around you. I'm just gonna put this out there because the hip hop community recently lost like one of the most influential rappers, DMX, passed over the weekend. But the reason why people really, really love this man, not just because of his music, but despite his struggles, he still showed up as his authentic self. He embraced and acknowledged that he was fully flawed, imperfect, but at the same time, he still showed up. He still showed people love. He still showed people, look, you could be going through so much, but at the same time, you can still keep it real. You can still be loving. You can still be impactful and influential without necessarily having all this glitz and glamour, all the shiny stuff, and I think it's a testament to his struggles, making him the ideal person to look up to. Forget everything he went through, but look at where he got to. despite all of the trauma that he went through. And I think it's good for all of us to look at that and be like, you know what? I think it is possible for us to be accepted, for us to be loved, for us to be appreciated despite all our flaws. You know, I think it's hugely important that the moment we accept them, other people will accept them at some point also, because they realize, you know what, if this person can be just as vulnerable, like openly, maybe I feel like I got a shot to do the same. Maybe I feel like, you know what, they're doing it, screw it. Why am I wearing all this makeup for no reason? It's not even me. I don't even like makeup. Why am I wearing these heels? I don't even like these heels. Why am I wearing lashes? But like, why am I trying to like, you know, wear all these flashy jewelry, trying to portray myself as this like big top player? I'm not even this dude. I don't even like myself right now. What the hell am I doing? So I think if people can really show up as their authentic selves, we can inspire others to do the same. And I truly do believe that.
Well, I think
sorry. No, I mean, that thought is so powerful, but so, and I've tried after, you know, okay, well, coming from a father with the slogan, if you don't look good, we don't look good, like, whoa, hello, screw me up. But you know what, thank you, because I will work through this and I will pay it forward. But the brain can't wrap around, and even my mother, the poor, beautiful woman who's so vain that she will not leave the house with like, so I revolted and I was like, I'm not wearing makeup. I'm going to wear tennis shoes. Like I revolted and I was like, that's it. I'm done. Well, that was this fine line of how much am I pulling out of like society? And people would see me, my ex-husband would be like, I swear I'd give you a couple dollars if I saw you on the streets. And I was like, one, that's rude. You're an ass. But haha, very funny. Where do we are, because we have a platform and we're able to use it. And yes, my insecurities play into it. So I'm trying to find that fine line of not losing someone's, because the mind is so trained to that slogan, you know, like the look, what we were all been talking about, like the advertising of who we are. So how am I going to play into this? I need to catch the eye and the attention. Yet when I authentically in my spirit shows up, I think that can do it. But if I don't grab the eyes, because the eyes can fool us, right? Then how am I going to get this attention? So I find that balance of like, all right, you got to kind of cover this is what I struggle with, your imperfections, your brown spots on your face, because that's what you've been taught, because who's going to look at you, because what man's going to like you, because what young girl's going to listen to what you have to say. So I'm like, all right, then let me try to beat them at their game. I'm going to cover my face. Like I'm going to look good. I'm going to show up. I might not fix my hair, but I'm going to show up with the way you think I should in for a second. But what you're going to hear, you might not like it. And I try to do that on my social media, and I show up, I'm like, what's going to grab their eye? All right, you want to see the pretty girl with makeup and hair? You want it? I'm going to show it to you. You want to see, oh, I just lost this amount of weight, and I'm going to show it to you. But if you get into to reading it, once I've captured you, whoa, there you go. Your head's going to go in a whole different direction. So like the baby steps, even for me, I mean, it's my game too. I'm playing with my own, you know, craziness. All right, let's take this path of how far can you push it, where are you going to grab that attention, and then, you know, so but to that, it's like I struggle with, you can't just show up in your raw self, Eden. Where I should have been born in the 60s, able to wear no makeup, but with barefoot, wearing like nothing, free love for everybody. But I didn't, and so, you know, that there lies my struggle. And I guess I just continue to talk about it, right? Until I don't know. I don't have an answer, and that's okay, right?
Yeah, and just really quickly, I'm sorry, Glenn, sorry, I know you're trying to jump in. Like, what you just spoke about right there is from a, like, sort of, like, ninja marketing perspective. I used to think, I would think, okay, what do I want? I need. What makes sense to me, right? And then I would put that out into the marketplace. And so it would not be as successful. Whereas if I begin to think from the marketplace as opposed to what I like, what I want, what's really great, when you begin to think from the marketplace and give people what they want first, right? And you can, if you, I mean, it's like we don't want to play into stereotypes. We don't want to play into all of the symptomatic problems that we've just been talking about, right? Like the symptoms of the problem we've been talking about. But like when you can say, oh, sure, I'll put on this makeup and I'm gonna put the cover photo of whatever with the headline, that the hook, right, that says I just lost 20 pounds doing whatever, and then when they click on it, okay, great, you hooked them with what they want, but then you give them what it is that they really need, which is that raw conversation. And again, going back to the conversation of polarity, there are going to be some people who are like whatever, and then bless them, they're going to go on, but there'll be some people who will be hooked and who'll listen, and who then might be changed. And just like Rachel was talking about, those little consistencies every single day. You change one person, they're going to talk about it with another person, and then you have this exponential pandemic of positivity and love and growth, right? And it sounds idealistic, but it is that little brick by boring brick every single day, right? If more of us do that, the bricks multiply much more quickly.
But I was just going to wrap that up in a sense of saying that that in its entirety, Eden, is living in your authentic self, your imperfections, you're owning it. Like, we are never going to get over these little things. Like, we have to not even play the game of society, but if you want me to show up like this, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. But that internal battle that we do with ourselves in its entirety is what our imperfections are. We are stepping into our truth because you're owning that. You're saying, okay, I'm never going to say I'm perfect, but at the end of the day, I battle it in my head each day. And that's the thing with mental health. It's always evolving and it's always continuing. And I don't want anyone to ever come to this podcast and think, oh, well, now they're over it. Because like me and Letitia showed the other day, and me and you, Eden, had that chat, and we all individually, yeah, we might have got over that stage, but it's a constant daily practice. Like Justin just said there, attesting to this, it's one step after the other. And yeah, I think we're far too hard on ourselves when it comes to, we shouldn't be thinking this, when in reality, if we are looking spirituality, whatever, you're leading by your truth. And that's why you're feeling this vibrational frequency of everybody, because there's no holes barred. We're just basically going, this is me, I do that, but I own it. I do this, I also own it. This is my tribe. You support me or you don't. Blah, blah, blah. But there's so much we've unpacked on this. I just want to thank everybody. And I've got one last question for each, and we'll just go around quickly. For anybody listening to this with a global audience, what are some last words you would like to say, just to put it out there, to give somebody that little bit of a, you can do this, you've got this, put one step in front of the other. What can you give them? So we'll start at the top again. Justin?
I would say this is fail faster. That's really it. You know, because of the way our school systems work, and I know that Christian spoke to this, and it's near and dear to my heart, we are taught, trained, and educated to not stick out, to not raise our hand, to not have the wrong answer, to not be different, to fit in. And yet, those people who have had great deal of success, those people who have changed the world, those people who have changed even a town or their own families, have all been willing to fail, and to fail publicly. And it's one of the greatest things you could ever do for yourself. And yes, it will hurt. And yes, you will not fit in at certain points. And yes, people will talk about you. And yes, they will tell you that you're wrong or you're not good enough or this, that, or the other. But at the end of the day, when you truly fail faster and you embrace failure and you see it for what it truly is, which is one of the greatest teachers in life, it allows you to step into a game where you're not afraid to grow. You're not afraid to expand. And like Glenn was saying, like we've all said here in one way or another, life is this step-by-step, day-by-day journey. And when we can be okay with failure, we actually learn how to trust ourselves more. by learning what doesn't work so we can figure out what does work. And then as we take that step forward, we grow, we expand, and we begin to recognize that there is no finish line. There's no I've made it. There's no place that we're getting to. It's just a constant and never-ending journey with new and new heights. And the higher we go, the more possibilities we can see that we couldn't see when we were on the ground looking up at the mountain. And, you know, we couldn't see the cloud, what was happening at the cloud layer, through the cloud layer. So my suggestion would be to fail faster and embrace it, because it is one of the greatest teachers and one of the greatest and quickest ways to have the kind of success you want and deserve in your life.
Amazing. Eden.
Completely agree, Justin. I cannot not mention Alan Watts, because he says in one of his YouTube, where you guys, if you haven't heard him, listen to Alan Watts and his voice and his demeanor, everything. And he says, everyone's so busy. Everyone's trying to do something and get somewhere and make something happen. And where are we going? Where are we going? And so for like my finish line, as you say, there's really no finish line. But I always go back to, for some reason, when my father passed away, I was on my way to the house. I didn't get there quick enough, and it's okay. But what were those last 5 minutes like? What are those last 5 to 10 to 3 minutes? Like, really, what is it? I highly doubt he was sitting there thinking the things that I would think would be like, oh, the brown spots on my face. Oh, those 5 pounds I could have, like, all this ridiculous stuff that I do to myself a lot. It was probably like, oh, remember that conversation I had with Imperfectly Perfect and how amazing it made me feel? Remember when I like had that conversation and they wanted to get sober and all of a sudden their life changed? Remember when the guy asked, I didn't even, all of those, just those moments. And I know there's that special saying, how you leave someone, but really, truly, like, take the moment. I guess what I'm coming to is, for everyone, is, yes, it's to fail. And then in that failure, take that moment, like, be present, but step into it. Because what's beyond that failure when you're stepping into it is the unknown, is the magic, is that like, whoa, I could be forever changed. And that next level of, so don't be afraid, that fear, step into that fear, because right beyond it is a world of we don't know. So thank you.
Love that. Rachel.
I feel sorry for whoever's going to go last. Good luck, you guys. There's some good shit coming out of this. Man. Okay, so for me, I was having this conversation with a friend last night, and I said to my friend, I said, look, I'm just trying to be who I needed at the time. So every day I experience a piece of life and I'm learning, I'm like, wow, this feels really good, or wow, this feels really lame. What do I need to help me feel better? And then when I realize what I need to be that person for someone and witness and look for the signs in other people who are not sure what's happening to themselves, and go, hey, I know where you are. Take my hand. It's going to be okay. Try this. And you're not on your own. So to add to what Justin and Eden have just said, that would be my addition, because I completely wholeheartedly agree with everything those guys have said. It's amazing. But yeah, be who you needed. And then that's your contribution, because we are of service to each other and to ourselves. And that's when we can be our best self, when we're not just selfish, but we are of service.
Exactly right. Exactly. Christian.
Wow, you guys are just like dropping some gems. It's like loads of mic drops. I'm like, I'm gonna have to pick this up now. I'm gonna go back to surrender. Surrender to your imperfections. Surrender to your flaws. Surrender to your failures. Then use that to mold yourself a new armor, forge a shield and a sword that you can be able to take yourself into battle and really, really impact and help those that need your help. And your help through your inspiration, seeing how you've been able to like embrace your own failures, your own imperfections, your own flaws, and turn them into something completely unique, somebody who is a knight in shining armor. So that would be my advice. Embrace it, surrender to it, and use it to forge something brilliant.
Love that, mate.
So,
Letitia.
I guess it leaves me to drop this mic big time. So one of the things, as soon as Justin said, you know, get ready to fail quicker, I always say my goal is to fail forward. You know, fail forward. So, you know, every failure is an opportunity for me to move forward and grow rather than just sit in the failure. And you know, I'm one of those people that's always trying to study. I mean, even when you just mentioned them too, like for me, I've also, you know, we're always out looking for that person that's somehow bringing that message. And so basically a lot of those teachings all for me lately have just come back to learning that in life you have two choices. You come from love or you come from fear. And whenever we come from fear, we're destructing everything. That's destruction. When we come from love, we're constructing things. But that lesson for me of, you know, power versus force and fear over love, love over fear, I realize that's a conversation I have to have inside every day with me. Am I going to come at myself today from love or from fear? And so my one thing I would leave whoever's out there listening, as you fail forward and you fail more, don't, you know, go in it, fail it. But also every day, come from love for yourself. Try to come from an understanding, even the voice in your head. You know, I'm listening, because when I run like 50, 60 miles a week. And I found years ago, why am I listening to Madonna's Vogue again? So I started listening to, you know, podcasts and then commencement speeches and sermons and whatever, you know, just I should speak 17 languages by now, you know? And right now I have the untethered soul going through my mind, which is interesting because it's me observing me, observing me, observing me. But the bottom line is that even with the voice in my head, can we just come from love? Can even the voice just come from love? Can we be constructive instead of deconstructive? Let's not come from fear. And I think that over all of this, and I have to tell you, Glenn, if I learned one thing today on this panel, if you ever put this together where we all get to come in person, I would buy a ticket to Australia so fast you wouldn't know what happened. And I think that you're sitting on something here where the way that we come to solutions is through, I mean, I literally was here, I'm like, these are my people. These are my people, you know, and I was struggling. What you said earlier, you know, I don't fit in. I've been a misfit my whole life. And then I realized thank you. I'm glad. I'm not a part of the herd. I'm just not. But that's a painful existence. So again, I'm going to choose to try to come from that conversation inside from love, because I don't want to fit in. And that's not an easy road to take. It's just not.
Absolutely love that. I'm mind blown. I just want anyone that's listening out there to show that before this, prior to individually knowing you guys and bringing everyone together, that we didn't know anything about anyone's background, and just how easy it is when you remove those masks. There's a commonality in all of us. And I just want to say, like, it's absolutely blown me away. I always think there's a mentor in your life for everything. Like, every one of you has shared something that I've learned something today. And like when Eden said earlier that she didn't feel up to coming on today, like, and I can just tell the energy of her. She's like, I probably needed this. And I just think, wow, it's just blown me away. But for anybody that's listening out there, guys, this is just the start of our roundtable series. And hopefully we can get these guys back on, because it's been absolutely amazing. Yeah, I just want to say on behalf of me, the campaign, thank you guys, Justin, Eden, Rachel, Christian, and Letitia. Thank you very much. And guys, you can find Spotify, iHeartRadio. See, I can't even speak now. It's like, it's all love, just the energy. Just keep having the hard conversation, guys. And yeah, that is the main thing that we want to drive through the Imperfectly Perfect campaign. And I just want to finish by saying what I said right at the beginning, guys. Stop for a moment. If this was someone you loved, your brother, your sister, your wife, husband, or friend, how would you champion them in their constant battle? Thank you, guys. Until next time.